Hello everyone, it's GigaBeef here, and today I'll be showing you why Tarkov is worth buying right now, or if you have the game already, upgrading to EOD as we head into the December wipe in probably 6 weeks or so. First and foremost, the Edge of Darkness edition of Tarkov is not going to be purchasable very soon, and you can see on the official Escape from Tarkov website right now that there is a countdown timer that will end, at least based on what it shows at the moment, at 9 PM UK time or 4 PM Eastern on the 30th of December 2023. Tarkov has 4 versions of the game currently: Standard, Left Behind, Prepare for Escape, and Edge of Darkness, commonly referred to as EOD, and most players are either on Standard or EOD. Those who have EOD already won't have this removed, you just won't be able to purchase it anymore once it is gone from the store. This has also been confirmed by Nikita, the lead dev for Tarkov, in the latest Tarkov TV, which is effectively the devcast for the game that happens periodically.
The EOD will be removed, so it not be removed like from everyone who bought it. It's just the option to buy it will be removed. So the EOD version is limited edition, and eventually, I said it many times before, that eventually it will be out from the shop, and yeah. This is it.
Before we continue, we have a super interesting sponsor for today's video, which is a new survival extraction game coming to Steam on November the 29th as a pre-alpha test that I'm certainly going to be checking out. NAKWON Last Paradise is a tense PvPvE survival game set in South Korea after a zombie apocalypse has brought civilization to its knees. After arriving at the last shelter in the capital Seoul, as a citizen, you're required to go on scouting loot runs regularly to bring resources back home with a focus on stealth. Avoiding the zombies is greatly preferable to fighting them, as one of the unique mechanics in NAKWON is that they cannot be killed, only temporarily disabled. Guns are extremely rare, and ammunition is typically more expensive than the weapons themselves. Returning with loot is what makes you money, which is where the simulation side of the game comes in, as you have to make rent, eat, sleep, and purchase equipment for the next scouting run. Your citizen grade determines the privileges granted to you in the society, and each day you have to decide whether to stay inside or to go out scouting, with higher ranking citizens able to skip more scouting runs than those lower down in the hierarchy. Out in the city, survivors are distributed on the location to gather resources, but whatever happens out in the lawless zone stays in the lawless zone, meaning you'll naturally have to look out for players with as much care, if not more so, than the zombies themselves. Survivors can leave through a randomly assigned personal escape route, which is a locked manhole that only activates for that survivor's tablet PC, or through the larger public exits that open partway through a scouting session. I'm really interested to see how this game plays out on release, which will begin with the pre-alpha test on the 29th of November that I will certainly be playing, so go and check out their Twitter and Discord, and follow my link down in the description to put NAKWON Last Paradise on your Steam wishlist as well to give it a go on launch. Now, we're not 100% sure what this means when it does disappear, but one important point about EOD right now is that you get the about-to-be-released Escape from Tarkov Arena for free if you have this version of the game, as well as all future DLCs, whatever that may entail. Although the headline price tag of €155 is pretty daunting, and it's a little bit cheaper in dollars, firstly, with Arena scheduled to cost €37, this makes it $118 instead if there's any chance of you wanting to buy Arena in the future. Secondly, no one should be spending this amount of money right off the bat. If you've put off trying out the game so far, it is certainly better to buy the standard edition first instead for €52 and give it a try before deciding if you want to upgrade. If you do move to EOD, you only pay the difference between standard and Edge of Darkness, which is $103, and as we said, this comes with Arena as well, so realistically it's more like $66 for EOD itself and $37 for Arena. But in order to make this decision, you'll be wanting to give the game a fair try first, and with just over a month to go, this window gives you exactly that. This is the same for those who already own a standard account and are on the fence about upgrading as well. Now, it is possible that BSG might add a new version of the game, still with the 3x3 Gamma container, which is one of the main perks of the EOD version, but without free access to Arena. However, only BSG knows their plans for this, and it could honestly go either way. Speaking of Arena, if you're new, inexperienced, or just generally daunted by Tarkov in general, this is going to make everybody's life so much easier getting into the game in the first place. One of Tarkov's big issues for new players is that although you can play offline against scavs, learn the spawns, watch YouTubes on video, etc., it's not possible to get much practice with actual PvP combat without dying a lot. And dying a lot makes it difficult to get better because you get such limited exposure to even firing your gun at the beginning when starting out. In fact, because the best way to get progression early on is to avoid PvP and survive with your loot, you're actively incentivized to leave the PvP side of the game until much later on, at which point gear fear can become a problem over a lack of combat skills. Arena is going to change all of this and give all players the ability to churn high-intensity PvP fights over and over using all sorts of different weapons with mechanics identical to, if not very similar to, the base game. The impact of this level of concentrated practice is not to be understated, and I think that this will really help to close the gap between those just starting out and experienced players who are well used to the mechanics of moving, positioning, healing, and shooting. Of course, Arena won't be able to teach all of the skills required for an actual Tarkov raid. For example, pathing through the map, avoiding common sightlines, and this is just as important as everything else involved in PvP, but it will be less of a priority in Arena outside of those direct skills fighting other players. So here is where the new map in patch 14 comes in. Ground Zero is going to be a brand new starter zone, looking very much like a small version of Streets of Tarkov, which is commonly chosen as people's favourite map so far, outside of the performance issues which shouldn't be present on Ground Zero due to its much smaller scale. Only PMCs up to level 15 or 20 will be able to queue into here, with the exact number not decided on yet, but this will prevent experienced players on their main accounts with high-end gear from running around killing everyone like happens sometimes on other so-called starter maps such as customs in the base game. This will give newcomers a slightly easier place to get into Tarkov if the regular maps are proving to be too challenging, and the hope is that the level requirement will remain in lockstep with the flea market. This is currently unlocked at level 15, and after this you have a far greater access to good equipment, so I think this is where the cutoff for Ground Zero should be placed. Either way, this new map is going to be another leg up to gain enough practical experience in the real Tarkov to play properly, and when combined with Arena for PvP practice, is going to be an excellent staging ground for the next generation of players. As for the state of the game itself, the Tarkov community is often filled with strong opinions and extreme views about the direction of development, many which are valid for one reason or another, but you'll also find plenty of disagreement even amongst veterans. As a newer player though, I wouldn't let this put you off. Until about 100 hours in, you probably won't even begin to notice any of these problems, as you'll be too busy getting killed, desperately trying to learn the maps and climbing out of the near vertical learning curve that we've all faced at the start of our Tarkov journeys. Once you've got a few hundred hours under your belt, you'll likely have your own conclusions about the game and will side with one or more viewpoints depending on how you like to play. But as it takes so long to get to this point, you'll certainly have got your money's worth from the game itself and will have decided whether it's for you or not long before then. This latest wipe, starting with patch 13.5, has been far better than the previous one of 13.0 when the Streets of Tarkov map was introduced, as there were a bunch of game-breaking bugs, stability issues, and stage 1 of the recently adjusted audio engine was still not even implemented on several maps when it was launched. Patch 13.5 to 13.9 though, which we're playing on at the moment, has been pretty enjoyable for the most part, building on many of the fixes that we saw through the beginning of 2023 for this short wipe at the end. Although we will almost certainly have some issues due to the brand new incoming features such as vaulting, the resulting game is going to be significantly better off for it. The final thing that I want to mention is about cheaters. Ever since the big cheating scandal video, I see posts fairly regularly with new players being put off by potential hackers, although to be fair, less than a few months ago. But unfortunately, cheaters are a modern fact in FPS games. Tarkov is not an exception. What is different is that when you get got, the way Tarkov functions mean that you do lose more than your average game, not only in terms of equipment but also in real life time, which I'd argue is way more valuable. However, as a newer player, you are much less likely to run into the blatant cheating situations than when you have better stuff later due to your PMC simply having a lower value. It's also impossible 99% of the time for inexperienced players to determine a cheater from an unlucky encounter unless they are literally flying, calling out your username over VoIP, or headshotting 3 teammates simultaneously with a stock weapon through a door. So when you do inevitably die, all you should focus on is what you could have done better as a player. Focusing on the cheaters is not helpful either mentally or for your own skills, and until you're a PvP god running into hotspots every raid, you're actually fairly unlikely to run into them anyway. So do I think that now is the right time to buy the game and potentially to get EOD? Yes, most certainly. There has never been a better time to buy this, and we're going to lose the opportunity to get EOD, so if you are on the fence about it or you're thinking about it, then I would recommend leaning towards getting it if you can. I do appreciate that it is a lot of money for some people, but we're not going to get this opportunity again. So as usual, a big shout out to all my patrons, and as always, have fun in your raids.